Hello and welcome to GreenBytes Wednesdays. GreenBytes Wednesdays is a podcast series where we facilitate critical conversations and steer consciousness when it comes to understanding the impact of our digital footprint across Nigeria's technology ecosystem. We hope that with this advanced knowledge, we can introduce you to some tools, trends, and best practices that can enhance your knowledge about digital sustainability. Are you curious about climate change? Are you a tech enthusiast or a climate entrepreneur? Come on board and learn on this episode as we get on with every conversation of the GreenBytes Wednesday podcast series. This podcast is proudly brought to you by Area I under the Scale Initiative, funded by the UK government through the Digital Access Program. My name is Sheifumi Adebote and I am glad to be your host. Welcome on board. Hello and welcome to GreenBytes Wednesday. This is a new episode in our series. I hope you've checked out other episodes that we've had and that you're looking forward to the many more episodes that will come. You can find it on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, wherever it is you find podcasts, you definitely can find the GreenBytes Wednesday podcast there. And GreenBytes Wednesday is a part of the Scale for Net Zero program. Scale is the smart climate awareness learning and empowerment program funded by the UK government here in Nigeria. And for us, the goal is to have critical conversations where we can sort of stir up some consciousness within you who is listening in ways that helps you understand more of Nigeria's digital landscape, that helps you to understand how we are advancing knowledge, what are the tools, what are the trends that is facilitating digital sustainability in Nigeria. It's really a pleasure to host this conversation. My name is Sheifumi Adebote. And today the topic is the circular economy playbook. My guest is Loretta Boniface. She's many things, I would say, but I will introduce her as an award-winning environmentalist, a climate negotiator, and a climate action advocate who in the last 4 years has been committed to driving and promoting the principles of circular economy, not just in Nigeria, but across Africa and other parts of the world. She is the co-founder of EcoCycle, one of the leading organizations that not only works on the grassroots level in sort of driving greener approach, but also they use games, and she'll probably talk about some of those when we continue speaking. How they gamify the approach of addressing climate action, which I think is a very, very unique approach to, having conversations around climate change. Loretta has been instrumental in driving different social change projects. She's also been working very much on zero waste projects across Africa. And she's also been trained by the Agnes. What is Agnes called again? The African Group of Negotiators.
Expert support.
Say that again. Expert support.
Yeah, expert support.
And this is also in connection most times with policy engagement, the COP trainings, and the role of young people in international climate conversation. So, such an experienced woman, even though she is pretty young, it is such a pleasure to have you on the podcast, Loretta Boniface.
Thank you, Steve.
Welcome indeed. So yeah, the topic is the circular economy playbook. And as Nigeria works to position itself as a regional tech hub, we know that this literally means that every progress we're making in the ICT sector, every innovation that comes up, within the tech industry or digital industry is contributing one way or the other to the environment. And for some people, they think, what exactly does this look like for me? And that's the idea of this conversation. If we had to present a playbook, like a working guide for circular economy to young people out there or to anyone who's watching, what should that look like? So maybe you can start with giving us an outlook of what are the key components that you think should be in a circular economy playbook.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really, really privileged to find myself here today. So for the word circular economy, and I would say this, for any time I find myself talking about circular economy, I really want to break it down to what people can understand. Because for me, whenever you want to explain something to me and you're using words that are really abstract, it really turns me off and I feel it's not for me. You're not really defining or explaining that for me to understand. That just strike me and immediately I just get lost. My attention span will just die at the moment.
So maybe the first question should be, what is circular
What
economy
is
in very simple
secular?
terms?
Yes, I think that should be the question. So, and if I should say that, I mean, secular economy is, and I would like to use this word, but then I think it's a word that can go by. It's a regenerative approach to waste. And I say this because this is now superseding the linear economy we used to know. And linear economy is from the producer to the landfill. Straight, it's linear. So I produce, you consume, and you throw out. But now an economy, a system is coming to tell us that it is no longer done like that. This contradicts what nature says. This is conflicting with nature. Can we now do it in a way that abides with the rules and the laws of nature? By saying I produce, you use, and bring it back for me to produce again and give you back to use. And it can go on and on and on. And there's no place for waste actually in this system. So I think that just explains circular economy in the most basic term.
And is it really practical?
It's practical. It is.
Also, give me an example. Take, for example, maybe the clothes you're putting on. It's a very nice jacket anyway.
Okay, it's a jacket, but then I'd like to give an example with a polythene bag or a plastic bag. Okay, we all know, and everyone uses the plastic bag.
Okay.
How about we produce this plastic bag in a way that is durable enough for the producer to sell, and someone like my mother, my grandmom, goes to shop with this plastic bag and it's still durable enough for her to use again, and eventually when it is worn off at some point, she don't have this idea of, okay, let me just throw it off and buy some another plastic bag. She have this idea of, okay, let me take it back to the producer. Now, but then this come with some sort of awareness, and that is where breaking this down to the level she would understand comes in, and to what she can relate to, those commodities, those products, and those systems that she understand, breaking it down for her to understand what circular economy means in that aspect. So if she's using a polythene bag, at what point is she going to take it back? Or at what point she should think of something around recycling? Because but then I don't even want to bring the word recycling because I don't want it to appear here. When we talk about circular economy, so recycling is just a little component of it. But then I know in Nigeria, when you talk about circular economy, everybody's like, let me recycle, let me recycle. But recycling is just like a very little, in short, when it is very standard, recycling is just not really needed. So at what point does she think, okay, should I refurbish this? Should I take it back? In short, is there a company that is willing? Is the company that produced this polythene or this plastic, are they willing, or is there a system for them to take back this, for them to produce and bring it back for my usage?
Loretta, you're really steering the waters here where you say you don't want to, just connect recycling with circular economy, because as you put it, that's pretty much the definition that people think of when you say, oh, let's do things better. Like, let's recycle.
Let's recycle. That's like easiest thing because that's what they understand. I mean, I don't blame them. I used to be there. When you talk about circular, I'm like, let's recycle, but then it's beyond recycling. This is a whole system. This is an economy we're talking about. So when you talk about economy, recycling is just a component, just a part of the economy. There are other things. There are other things that comprises of.
Maybe one of the very central things that is also comprised in these conversations of circular economy will be the EPR, the extended producer's responsibility. But how operational is that in Nigeria if we start from there?
Okay.
Or maybe you can introduce to the listener what exactly the EPR is, and then you can delve into the operationality.
The EPR, it's a very, very, for some people, again, I'll say it's abstract, but then it's as simple as a producer, me producing this jacket. But then, no, I have the responsibility of following up what happens to this jacket until the end and bringing it back. Or I create a design or a system that takes this jacket, circulate it, and bring it back to me. it is something that mustn't be done with you, but then it's creating that system is really important for every producer to understand. And it should be like a win-win approach for any EPR to work.
Yeah.
It should be a win-win for both the consumer and the producer at all levels. So when the consumer understands the role I want to play in ensuring that this doesn't mean waste at any level,
Yeah.
then also I also understand. So I have the tax of creating that system for myself and for ensuring that without compliance, because that's one thing people understand for EPR is like they are enforcing everybody. There's an alien policy that say, okay, EPR must be done. EPR shouldn't be it shouldn't be the notion that should ride on people's mind that okay, EPR is just a policy that I should comply on. It
Yeah.
should be something that is that you see it's beneficial enough for you to understand the role it plays in the society and also for your business. So I think that's what explains it.
So if that is how it should be and how it's been designed, why do we have many companies really shying away from that? And it makes it very difficult to achieve circular economy if, producers do not take responsibility for what happens to the container after the content has been used, for
Yeah.
example.
So again, I see this that a lot of research are lacking in the aspect because when you talk about circular economy, you don't talk about it as a holistic thing. Each sector should have what circular economy means to them, each system. And if that should be, that means a lot of research
Yeah.
should be done in some of those things to also ensure a seamless transition. That's one. And also to ensure that you have policies that people understand, that people can relate to, not alien policy, not copying, okay, there's a country doing well, can we copy it down to Nigeria and force people operating, not knowing that this is a different economy entirely we're operating in. And I think that's why a lot of producers, a lot of business people are really shying away from the issue when you talk about EPR and all of this kind of compliance.
Got you there. So let me echo what you just said, that for things to be operational, we don't have to lift, copy, and then paste it here, in our own context. And let me connect this to then say, Loretta, say you've been approached by the UK government, for example, or the United Nations, and you've been asked to design a playbook, a circular economy playbook. And by that, I mean like a guide, a roadmap, or like an operational document that can fit into the context of Nigeria. You work in this space, you are Nigerian yourself, you know the Nigerian context. This was the first question I asked earlier, so I'm asking again. What will be the key components in this circular economy playbook that you will be designing?
Okay. To design first, I think the one thing to look out for
Yeah.
is to design to eliminate waste. That is one. Another, design to agree and align with nature. This might sound like too big a term for people to understand, but I'm just trying to say it as I understand it.
Okay.
And again, is also to bring in materials that are really affordable, because affordability is like the major thing we are conflicting with when it comes to interfacing with people
Yeah.
and talking about circular economy, because you cannot tell me something is going to be beneficial to me and I'm buying it more expensive than what I can get for really a more affordable rates. So if we should design a playbook, affordability should be like top notch what
Okay.
we should, and it starts with the material.
I see.
So if I am designing a slippers,
Yeah.
and I say this is like this is supposed to be designed for circularity, how am I designing it? What materials? How am I exposed to that materials? Are there any incentives? Are there any tax that will be leveled down for me to operate efficiently while I do those things? So those things should also be considered while developing a playbook.
Yeah.
A tool.
Super. How about the place of infrastructure? Would you think about that also?
Yeah, infrastructure is like, sorry, I missed that. It's the big elephant in the room. So a lot of infrastructures from the ones we all know, from the social infrastructures and everything we
Yeah.
have. So how do you introduce circular economy to that? That's very
Yeah.
important. And it have to do from even the most basic things they use. I went to an organization, I think last year towards the ending, and I saw, and this is a very big organization. I expected them to know the basic of, even for a complimentary card, you have to like what is trending now is having a barcode
Yeah.
for someone to scan, and instead of giving people over and over, you just have you can use one or two
Yeah.
complimentary card for a whole month. And I was telling them, and they were like opening my, I'm like, oh my god, you guys are supposed to know this. It's like, it's what is in vogue now, what
Yeah.
people do. And people do all those things, in short, in those kind of corporate infrastructure or corporate system, in a way to really achieve the zero waste we're all talking about.
I'm just wondering if you've spoken very broadly, about circular economy, and I do appreciate that. But if we had to narrow it down, it could be an uncomfortable area. But if we had to narrow it down to the digital economy space or the ICT sector as we know it, what are the components of circular economy in the digital space as you understand it?
Okay, as I understand it, when you talk about the digital space and the e-space, the component, it is not just like you say. It's going to be quite uncomfortable because it's like an aspect I've not really dived in. But then when we talk about systems, I mean that's what we all know, and a lot
Yeah.
of young people. That's, I mean, when you talk about it in that approach, that's what they can really understand and relate to. And it again, it's just about thinking about eradicating waste. That could be, now we're talking about data.
Yeah.
In that sense, we'll talk about data. So how do you work effectively? How do you work to deliver and also come with the consciousness of saying there's a waste in my industry? If there's data, how do I minimize? How do I reduce? How do I recycle if the need comes? And how do I refurbish? All these things should be like a basic principle for your operations.
Absolutely. And if I just add to that, I was speaking with someone earlier today and he talked about how we have to think about this even from the point of procurement. From where we are buying it, we have to
From
say, hey,
buying.
do we need to buy this? If we need to buy this, then, that deliberate sense of being
That
conscious
consciousness,
about
yes. That, yeah,
sustainability,
that
yeah, from that
consciousness
point
about
of buying.
sustainability. Yeah, that's the word.
Absolutely. Great.
That's the word.
I've been speaking with Loretta Boniface. We've been speaking around sort of designing a circular economy playbook. What will be the key components? We started by sort of introducing the concept of circular economy. What does it mean in simple terms? And we've shared some very practical examples. We've spoken a little bit about the EPR, the Extended Producers Responsibilities Act also. And I'll turn to you here again. Thank you for all the insights. Thanks for all that you've been sharing. Um, and if we had to maybe just so we close out on this concept of the EPR, we know that here in Nigeria, there is an agency, NESRA, that is responsible for enforcing and regulating all of these environmental practices, whether e-waste or digital waste or fashion waste or food waste, whatever it is, and see that we can move towards becoming a circular economy or being more sustainable. But where then do you place, or how would you assess um, the current place of the government in enforcing or sort of in driving the country towards being a circular economy?
Okay. Thank you so much for that question. And I'll say it the way it is. And I'll say, for what I can see now, it is mostly the civil society and the NGOs that are driving this conversation in Nigeria. The government have created like a circular economy roadmap. I've gone through it. It's really interesting. However, how are you making this readily available and information for everyone? Because I remember when the health issue of HIV came into
Yeah.
place, it was so much information spreading and also breaking these languages down for people, to even pidgin language, to tell people this is deadly. Please don't do it. Imagine telling somebody that HIV is acquired. It is just going to sound, and he wouldn't know when he would jump into it without knowing what he's doing. But then the fact that this was being like pass through and relate to even an old person in the village, knowing that
Yeah.
it is something I'm supposed to care for myself. This is an ailment that would kill me. So I think the same approach should be used for circular economy, by telling people that, okay, even if the National Orientation Agency should have their place in this conversation, all agencies should take, it's a thing that needs to a synergized approach to having it. So this language should be break down to people. If it's their local languages, the jingles, the radios, everybody, and I think it's the role of that's what government can do to promote these conversations. While everybody is putting hands on deck, the civil society, the NGOs, and everybody is doing, the government should do well in seeing that the public are being sensitized in this level to understand really what sustainability means in this conversation.
I see. So that's a challenge to the government, and I'm also thinking, in addition to that position of pushing it out, like you said, giving the example of the HIV/AIDS campaign, which I would say was also replicated during Ebola, during COVID,
During
also
COVID
with the
too.
international
Yes.
push. But sometimes I also think that at the end, people do what they want to do. For example, if you look at cigarette packs, you will see very clear warnings, but people still choose not to abide by it. So at the end, if people still choose,
I
they have the
mean,
free will to
we
do
can
what.
have that little percentage that will say, I've read and understand. So let me take action.
Okay, then
Yeah.
interesting. But yeah, let's look at another approach to circular economy. So yes, the governments go all out, they speak, the media is all out putting out the message. But then talking about the role of civil society, like you hinted, can you give us some approach uh, that civil society has sort of taken on to communicate and to get people to embrace circular economy?
Okay, I think one very effective thing the civil society are currently doing is to push a lot of catch them young program, like going to schools and educating, because I think that's where they see the hope.
I see.
Like, okay, since we cannot really get those things to the general public and to
Yeah.
the society, why don't we go to those young ones that are still growing, who will be the leaders of tomorrow? Why don't we start teaching them sustainability as early at this early stage? And I
Yeah.
see a lot of organizations really doing that, and they're doing interestingly well. I mean, personally, my organization have gone to schools that a child doesn't even know what waste mean. What he understands is just, let me take this and throw it. And after educating, after series, we go to the level of even having a boot camp for those young people to say, okay, they are okay. After the whole assembly talk, let's talk extensively on what you can do as a young person, what you can do as a child, as young as you
Yeah.
are. So I think the civil society organizations are really doing well in that aspect. I think it's really effective because when you look at it, it's really trying to educate those young ones. So eventually, in the next 10 years, we could have a more conscious society.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's one. Catch them young. Are there other approach? I know, for example, at EcoCycle, your organization, you have the game plan game, which
Yeah.
is more or less in that line. Can you like reflect a bit on
Yes,
that
yes.
also?
The plan game is a really wonderful approach, and it's so exciting to know that last year alone we were able to reach over 50 schools in Nigeria. Not to talk about the schools even outside the country that are really trying to say, okay, please, can you get the plan game? Just to have this easy and fun learning approach. While I say the word reduce, or I say recycle, or I say refurbish, and it's sounding alien to a
Yeah.
child, I have a way to really illustrate what I mean to a child.
Yeah.
Okay, this is what I mean by when I say recycle.
Yeah.
This is what I mean when I say circular economy. Then a child, even a child that is in a slum community or a sort of community that don't have access to like formal learning, can
Yeah.
really see the illustrations and see that, okay, this is what I should do and this is what I should stop doing. So the game has really been an interesting learning tool for a lot of people, even young people, not to talk about school, outside, like picnics. And I see a lot of people really, really accepting it, and really, and I love what the plan game is doing for young people entirely in Nigeria.
Okay. Great. So yeah, catch them young approach, going to schools at the grassroots level, using games like you just
Gamifying,
mentioned.
yeah, the learning.
But what do you think about some more extreme approach? For example, those who go on school strikes, those who go to art exhibitions, places, and they face it, those who, stand in places of power, stand in front of, the presidency, and they say, hey, we want to make a statement. For them also, it's about, yeah, this is our own approach to achieve, circular economy. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's really, really a very wonderful approach. But then I
Did you say
also,
wonderful?
yeah, it's wonderful approach because I tell people, but before you embark on that, you need to understand the nitty gritty of what you're doing. Because you don't just see that someone is holding a placard and you feel, I want to hold a placard. You must have a story to back up whatever thing you're doing. If you're lobbying, because yeah, we do a lot of lobbying too. We go to state assembly to talk about these things with if those policymakers,
Yeah.
so let them understand why it is critical, why sustainability is really important. But then those people also ask you very, very deep questions
Yeah.
sometimes. So you have to understand what you're doing. Is if this is really a course you want to go by,
Yeah.
understand, be knowledgeable enough. So don't just understand it at the top level and you say, okay, I want to go and do, I want to go for strike.
Mm.
Please understand, please come from a place of knowledge, a place of understanding to approach it in that level of going for strike or lobbying or going for all those activism.
I see. So as we sort of coast and we hope to have a more sustainable Nigeria and a Nigeria where we, can say yes, even if it's not at 100%, if we achieve 80%
Hmm.
circular economy, that would be great. But
Yeah.
what are some challenges that you see between now, where we are today, and when we get there? What are some challenges, um, sort of roadblock towards having a Nigeria where circular economy is fully embraced?
Okay. One challenge is inflation rate.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a very big challenge when we're trying to gain a balance and then it's no longer balanced
Hmm.
and people are really tilting towards surviving.
Hmm.
So you cannot tell a surviving nation that okay, there's a new approach to this thing. People really want to eat. People want to survive, just literally. So I think inflation is really a big challenge when you talk about circular economy in Nigeria because if it's like business as usual, then you can really bring in something to say, okay, there's a new system.
Yeah.
But then if the system is really up and down,
Yeah.
people can really just tilt towards the safer side for them, what they think is the safer side,
I
not really
see.
considering the planet.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see. So would you say you connect that also with economic realities of
Yes,
people?
the
Okay.
economic realities of people, the
Okay.
risks and other things.
Okay. So apart from that, what are the other challenges that you think, maybe you as an individual face in?
Yeah,
Sometimes you want to do something, okay, this is the right
I
approach, but
this is the right approach. One again, I would always say it's trying to source for resources to really
mm,
do what you think is the best for people, or when you want to bring an intervention. Resources funding is always like a
mm,
big challenge, and that's why for my organization we have found a way to see okay how to really bring in a business approach to these things. So while we're doing the business, we're also taking out the profit to do the impact work we're doing. So this has really been working for us as as an organization. So the challenge also lies in that place of getting funding, getting things done,
mm.
getting the right resources and the right people, trying to convince people to believe in this sustainable cause.
Hmm. And how easy, maybe this will be my last question. How easy do you think it is? I mean, something you've been doing for quite a few years now. How easy is it to convince the average Nigerian to say, hey, you need to embrace the secular economy?
It was quite
On a
not
scale of 1 to 10.
on a scale of 1 to 10. Oh my god, it's okay, is 10 the
Yeah, 10 being the highest, very easy.
very easy is 10?
Yeah,
Okay, very easy is 10. One is
yes,
0.
yeah,
I'll give 3.
3.
Yeah, that's where we
Hmm.
are right now.
So I do hope that after listening or watching this, you will, be more responsive. And next time I'm asking Loretta that question, maybe the answer will be 8, maybe 7,
Or 9.
or
Or
9.
9. 9 is a better number.
If we're being optimistic.
Hmm,
Thank you so much, Loretta.
thank
I've
you.
been speaking with Loretta Boniface, an award-winning environmentalist, climate negotiator, and a climate action advocate who's been on the scene for nearly half a decade. And she's been working to promote the principles of circular economy and driving climate action through creating values from waste and mitigating energy poverty in Nigeria. She's spoken a lot around, we just spoke around some challenges. We've also talked about, or we started the conversation by defining what exactly circular economy means, what are the key components that should be in a playbook. We also spoke about the different approach, from engaging people in secondary school, catching them young at the grassroots level, uh, to gamified approach. And she described as wonderful, even the extreme approach. I'm not sure about that, but yes, it's been quite a lot. And then we hope that from this you can also think and you reflect consciously about what roles you want to play. That's the aim of these conversations that we have on Green Bytes Wednesday, to stir within you this consciousness when it comes to your own place in the big picture of digitization in Nigeria. And I really do hope that you find some answers. If not on this episode, then check out other episodes of Green Bytes Wednesday. It's on YouTube, it's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, and on all our social media platforms. Feel free to also engage with us on social media. We'll be very excited to read from you. That's going to be all for this episode. I can say very quickly that it's a part of the Scale for Net Zero program, and Scale is the Smart Climate Awareness Learning and Empowerment program funded by the UK government here in Nigeria. A big thanks to the team, Ajibola, Ayo, and Wonderful, that has made it possible for us to bring you this and many other episodes. My name is Sheifumi Adebote. Bye for now. Thank you very much for joining us on this episode of GreenBytes Wednesday. This podcast is brought to you by Area I under the Scale Initiative, thanks to funding from the UK government through the Digital Access Program. Have you learned something new? Please share with your network, share with your friends, as I look forward to hosting you on yet another episode of GreenBytes Wednesday next week. Follow us on our social media platforms, check out our courses, test yourself, see how much you know, how much you're learning when it comes to digital and sustainability ecosystem in Nigeria. And I should remind you that as you balance your knowledge of digital ecosystem, also remember to stay committed to a shared and sustainable planet. My name is Sheikh Adebote. Bye for now.